Welcome back to The Big Hit. I'm Jake Spagno, and I'll be your host this week. We've got a lot going on with the NHL trade deadline with Mike Costa and Hot Take Jake Taylor. Then we'll move on to some MLB with Stephen Langdon Jr. and Jake Slobodnik. Then we'll move on to the Alliance of American Football, the newest league to hit with Hunter Mitchell, myself, Joey Chrisman, and William Barbera. Stay tuned. Let's get it going. Welcome back to The Big Hit, and we're going to talk the NHL trade deadline with Mike Costa and Hot Take Jake Taylor. So guys, just going with a plethora of big names that have been on the move since this has been going on. Matt Duchene, Wayne Simmons, Kevin Hayes, Mark Stone, Gustav Nyquist, and Matt Zuccarello, just to name a few. So with that in mind, who do you think has the best chance to succeed with their new teams? Jake, why don't you go ahead and start us off?
All right, yeah, exactly like you said, Spags. There's a plethora of big name players on the move, and most of them because they were acquired this offseason to lesser teams, knowing that they were going to be traded in the rebuild. So players like Matt Duchene, we all knew he wasn't going to stay on Ottawa. But the player that I think that's going to succeed the most is Kevin Hayes for the Winnipeg Jets. He was a fantastic player for the New York Rangers. He was sitting at 42 points this season. He's a +1. It's not too good, but the team's abysmal. The Rangers are terrible this season. They're not playing well, and Kevin Hayes needs to get out of there. He's an 8-year veteran there. He's been there for a while. He's obviously a fan favorite, a Barstool Sports favorite. We all know. We like to see Tor's apartment. You know, he's a funny. Yeah, we love to see it. He's a funny guy. But I think he's really going to go and succeed with this Winnipeg Jets team. This Jets team finished second in the league last year with 114 points. They were my favorite to go win the Stanley Cup. Mm-hmm. They needed a piece, and they got that piece. I think in Kevin Hayes in that center position. You have Scheifele on the first line. Now you have Kevin Hayes on the second line, and Brian Little down in your third line center. This is the type of center depth that you need to win the Stanley Cup, like you've seen in years past from the Penguins, from the Capitals, even from the Chicago Blackhawks. You need to have stacked through center position. And I think that's what Winnipeg did exactly. They're big body, they're hard hitting, and they added just a very good scorer in Kevin Hayes.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think Kevin Hayes definitely. That's what I was going to go with. That whole thing was blown up. You know, like that whole team. They're not here to win now. Winnipeg definitely a lot of big bodies, a lot of speed there, really good goaltending. I think. Kind of the same note, Wayne Simmons. I think a little revamp in his career. He was still putting up points. Big body, a lot of speed, great on both ends of the ice, great power forward. Like you said, at the center position, that's what you need. I think that in Nashville, they were already a great team, obviously. They went to the Stanley Cup, lost to the Pens. Yeah. Had to run out of there.
No big deal.
I think that Nashville, on top of already having a great team, they have Wayne Simmons now. I think they go a long way. So that's how I got. That Metropolitan is crazy. They got a lot of talent. I think it's like 5 points between 5 teams, 79 to 74, something like that. I mean, it's ridiculous. So just to have a guy like that, just to have a guy that can put up some points to put you in that, like, right in the playoff picture, having Matt Duchene, definitely.
Yeah, honestly, I'm so surprised. The biggest one I was surprised about was not even Mark Stone being traded, but good golly, they acted like this was the second coming of Mario Lemieux. Like when he arrived in Vegas, they had the red carpet out for him. They had cheerleaders flashing the money
all
this stuff.
Man.
It was ridiculous. I mean, he can score goals, but what else has he ever done? I mean, he wasn't even the best player for the Ottawa when they made that deep run in the playoffs 2 years ago. So Mark Stone, I think he was a great player. I think he really put the puck in the biscuit in the basket. But when it comes time to it, if you're paying this man as much as you're paying Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, PK Subban, that's ludicrous. I mean, what are they doing over in Vegas? They're not doing anything right. You get Fleury, bad choice there. No, I'm just kidding. That's just a bad
That's what I was going to say, dude. He averages like a half a point a game. I mean, you got guys, a little stat for you. Ovi, Crosby, Malkin, like you said, PK Subban, Stamkos. Yeah, if you're on the same, dude, if you're making 9.5 mil like up with those guys, I expect a Stanley Cup. I don't expect Mark Stone, you know?
Yeah, Mark Stone. What kind of, what?
Yeah.
Bad hair. He's got no flow too. Terrible hairline. It drives me nuts.
He's a
Drives
greasy
me
looking
nuts.
dude. He's not a rocket dude. He's a greasy looking guy.
Nah. But speaking of teams that could have a chance at Lord Stanley this year, the Tampa Bay Lightning is the fastest team to reach 100 points since the 1971 Boston Bruins and sit atop the league with a 13-point cushion. That's absolutely ridiculous. But is this finally the year Tampa gets the job done and brings Lord Stanley back to the Bay?
Jake?
Mike? Honestly, how in the world? I want to say though, shout out to Timmy T. He's in the Navy, my bud, the best hockey, smartest hockey I've ever met in my life. But he said he thinks the most lasting dynasty has been the Tampa Bay Lightning since the early 2000s. They've really never even had that bad of a team. They're always in contention. They're always in talks. They never really have a bad season. But the fact that they just go and their team is so loaded. Last year they blew a 3-2 lead to the Capitals in the conference finals. 2 years prior to that, they blew a 3-2 lead in the conference finals of the Pittsburgh Penguins. The year before that, they lost in the Stanley Cup final. I mean, they just can't get the job done. I don't understand what's wrong with this Tampa Bay team. They finally acquired all those players, big nine players. They basically took the whole New York Rangers roster and just put them on their team. They're like, all right, we'll take this super team. They made a super team, and I don't know why. If they can't do it last year, this is the year. The fact that Steven Stamkos is right now producing at like the third best on the whole roster, it's just ridiculous. You have Steven Stamkos, and he's not even the best player on the team. Come on now, John Jabroni Cooper behind the bench. He got to get something going because he can't coach that team for a win for jack nothing.
That's right. I don't know what it is. I mean, that's what I was going to say. The head coach, that's the only. I mean, the roster's so talented. I don't know. You can't blow that up. You've already spent all these like draft picks, and you've put in all this time. You got a loaded roster. You've got one of the best rosters in the league. It's got to be something with the coaching. I don't know what it is. In my opinion, it's the same thing with like the Washington Capitals. Until like they actually win. Until something happens in the postseason, like that's when I'll believe it. I'm all for them. I don't have anything against Tampa Bay. But like that roster is so it's always something too because it was Stamkos going down. It was blowing those leads. But for me, it's until they beat these teams in the Metropolitan and they go to the Stanley Cup and everything. That's when I'll believe it. I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, I mean, since 1971, the sport of hockey wasn't even hockey back then. Like, what are you doing? Like, this is the modern era of hockey, and you see this team doing this, and Nikita Kucherov doing what he's doing. Clearly, the runaway MVP, the best player on the best team, hands down, best player in the league right now. So if he can turn it up in the playoffs, I'd like to see it. I'd love to see it. Good goaltending. I mean, the European goalies like to choke, so we'll see how that goes.
Right.
That's true. But speaking of the playoffs, it's very close, not just in the East, but also in the West. And which team or teams, if any, that aren't currently in the playoff picture do you think could be come April?
I think. I had them earlier, too. I think the Sabres make a little push.
Yeah.
They got a good roster. They were kind of quiet, I think, in free agency. But then again, if it's something that's still working, you know, you're not adding all these guys that can mix up the chemistry and can mess everything up. So what they have now is what they're working with. I think they're like 5 points out. Not too bad.
Not too bad, yeah.
Washer's really good. Defenseman, solid defenseman. Goaltending could be better, but the forwards are great. I think that they make a little bit of a push. It'll be tough in that division, but I have the Sabres going. I think the Knights are in there too. I think the Knights make a little bit. Obviously, when you get, what's his name?
Yeah, Mark Stone.
Mark Stone, yeah. You got a lot of guys there. Talent is already
Marku, yeah, exactly. You forgot his name already.
A lot of speed, yeah, that greasy. A lot of speed, yeah, a lot of speed. Talent. You got Fleury back there. So I got the Knights in the West, and I got the Sabres in the East.
For me, I have the Columbus Blue Jackets. They bought all in. They literally gave up everything. They gave up their whole future, which is baffling to me, but it's whatever. And you get these big players. You bring in DeZingle. You bring in Kincaid and goalie depth. You have Matt Duchene. You want to sign Panarin. You want to make a good impression for Panarin to sign. He's a free agent this offseason. But you want to pass them. They're not even in the playoffs right now. They took a big fat L from the Pittsburgh Penguins last night. So no surprise there. Bobrovsky folded when he's up against Jared McCann. What? Yeah. But you're going to have that goalie depth for Columbus. I really think that Carolina's going to fall off. Carolina's not legit. The Penguins are going to move up. I think Columbus is going to swoop in there. I don't know how they can't not make it after, if you look at their roster compared to teams like Carolina, you know? Like Buffalo. I mean, Buffalo is the fastest team to go from last to first and within 24 games in the beginning of the season. So they're still in a rebuild. And Columbus is just bought all in. I'll hop on the Columbus bandwagon. Their goal song's the toughest in the league easily. So
that's a good one, yeah.
That's a good one. I mean, if I want to see anyone, if it's not the Capitals, I might as well just be Columbus.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jake, and thank you so much, Mike, for talking the trade deadline with us. Stay tuned on The Big Hit. We have some MLB talk with Stephen Langdon Jr. and Jake Sobotnik coming up. Don't go away.
Hey! 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 Hey!
Hi.
Hey!
Matt Chips here with something special just for you. Press Start. Press Start is the most prestigious, hilarious, and entertaining TV show ever seen on air. You want to watch? Here's what you do. Grab a TV, grab a remote, and turn it to...
And there you have it. Delicious gaming and nerdy content right there in front of you.
Bring the wife, bring the kids, bring your friends, bring your dog, your dad, your mom. Sit them all down and watch Press Start.
I don't mind Press Start, but I really prefer What a
Yeah, I guess it's pretty cool.
Yeah, Press Start's pretty cool.
Welcome back to The Big Hit. Now we're going to talk some MLB with Jake Slobodnik and Steven Langdon Jr. Starting things off, Manny Machado finally signed with the San Diego Padres, breaking the stalemate between him and Bryce Harper as to who was going to sign first. So what are your reactions to the signing, guys?
Well, if he will, in the beginning of the offseason, there were talks that Machado wanted to go to at least a contending team, one that has a guaranteed World Series win. The Padres aren't going to do that, so thank you, Machado. You're a complete hypocrite. Another negative reaction is it's a multi-year contract where he can opt out after the 5th year. A 10-year deal worth about $300 million, and an opt out after the 5th year, which I think he'll take that. I think he'll take that option out. That's my reaction.
Yeah, honestly, I think that was a pretty good deal for the Padres. It brings in a lot more fans, although I don't know how many fans the Padres actually have.
More than the Marlins, I'll say that right now.
That's true. But I personally like the deal because, like I said, it brings in money. Plus, I know the Padres are known for paying a lot of money to get pretty much scrubs. I mean, Eric Hosmer paying all that money, not really working out in their favor. But I think overall, I think it's going to work out for the Padres. Although, like you said, I think it will be a 5-year deal. I do not see him staying in San Diego for 10 years. Let's be honest, who wants to stay in that place for 10 years?
Well, quite honestly, I'm glad you brought up the whole money aspect because the San Diego Padres they have spent the most in the past 2 off seasons. $444 million combined dollars on 2 players, Eric Hosmer, Steven mentioned, and Manny Machado this year. So they really need to make up for the money lost. And with the fan base that's slowly dwindling.
Slowly dwindling? It's been dwindling for
I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt on this one.
Oh, okay, I was going to say, it's been dwindling for quite some time.
All right, but moving forward with that, we got spring training has just started, and already we're seeing a lot of prospects dominate games left and right. So which breakout talent will have the most impact come this spring? What do you guys think?
Well, I'm gonna go back to my home roots in Pittsburgh. So far, it's only been 4 to 5 games played this entire spring training, and already Jason Martin is making a big impact for himself for Pittsburgh. Already 4 for 7 combined in each of his appearances, 2 home runs, 4 RBIs. Just a clutch moment. And when he was with Altoona, I think he was their top player, if not keep Brian Hayes. But Jason Martin, I think he's on the faster track to reaching the bigs soon. And with the way he's going and the way the outfield for Pirates is getting hurt left and right, we might see him be promoted sooner rather than later. So Jason Martin is my pick.
I'm going to go with Brendan Rodgers from the Rockies. So far, the 9th overall prospect coming into the season. And he played a little bit in AAA. Unfortunately, didn't get that September call-up. Had a bit of a shoulder injury. But he is a great infielder. Obviously a great talent. Was drafted 3rd overall in 2015, I believe. But I've watched his story, from the draft up, and he has just looked superb. Plus, the Colorado Rockies do not have the best infield depth. I know they're good on the left side with Arenado signing that big contract now, and you also have Trevor Story, who is just a great overall player. But I'm thinking that putting Brendan Rodgers at second base, not really a position that's strong for that team. So I think that he can really help the team moving forward. Plus, he's only 22, really the perfect age to come up in the majors. And I think that he is going to be a big part for this Colorado Rockies team this season.
Well, let's also not forget, you mentioned Brandon Rodgers has a good bat. With the loss of DJ LeMahieu in the offseason to the Yankees, they're going to need to fill his role again sooner rather than later. And Brandon Rodgers is the guy to do that. He's in the top 10 in their pipeline. So it would be ludicrous of them not to bring him up as soon as possible just to help fill the role, if not get some reps in for maybe later on in the season when they do want to bring him in. he's definitely going to be brought up this season way before the September call-up deadline. So it's going to be interesting watching him move forward.
For sure, it's definitely going to be an interesting time once spring actually really gets rolling. But we've got some way too early predictions. We're going to do rapid fire style, so try and keep these brief, but give a good explanation at the same time. So, who do you think lands Bryce Harper and when?
I'm going to take a page out of Steven's book. I'm going to say he's going to go to Philadelphia. I've been calling it all offseason that Bryce Harper signs with Philly just because of the way that they have moved themselves this offseason with acquiring Andrew McCutchen, moving Reese Hoskins back to first after his abysmal 2018 season. It just aligns perfectly, and that if you add Harper that adds a three-headed monster in the outfield with Odubel Herrera, Andrew McCutchen, not to mention Nick Williams, who can fill in here and there.
Absolutely.
So lots of options for the Phillies. So I'm going to say Bryce goes to the city of brotherly love.
I'm actually going to go with the surprising team, San Francisco Giants. There was a report that came out today that they are offering a 10-year deal, and let's be honest, the Giants have hardly any payroll, so they can offer insane amount of money. I know the Phillies have an insane payroll as well, like very low payroll, so they can also offer them the amount of money. But I'm going to go with the underdog San Francisco Giants, and I believe that's going to happen by the end of next week.
All right, now your biggest surprise team for this season.
Minnesota Twins or the Cincinnati Reds, in my opinion. And I know I hate saying that because I'm the Pirates fan and the NL Central, but the way Cincinnati Reds have been shaking up their depth chart this offseason, acquiring Yasiel Puig and Matt Kemp, adding some beef to their lineup, it's shaping up well for them. But let's also not forget Minnesota Twins have been adding a plethora of signings this season with C.J. Cron, Jonathan Scope, many more. And then their rotation and in their bullpen, they got Trevor May and lots of guys like that. And then their rotation, Jose Barrios and just guys like that can go the distance in the game. So Minnesota, I think they're going to top the AL Central over my favorite Cleveland Indians.
I wouldn't call them a surprise team, but I'm going to go with the Padres. I really think that they can make a strong run this year. I think they are a playoff team if Eric Hosmer could get his bat going like he did with the Royals. And really, I think that adding Machado really adds to they lost 90 games last season, but I think they're going to have a strong playoff push this year.
All right. And then the biggest name to move at the trade deadline, or not the trade deadline, at the deadline, my bad.
That's trade deadline.
Oh, yeah, trade deadline.
I'm going to say Troy Tulowitzki signed a league minimum to the New York Yankees this offseason. And with the way they've been adding people to their rotation, they're going to deal him by the end or by halfway through the season just so they can get some maybe potential prospects out of that, some big names. Even though Tulo's been doing well for him, a league minimum definitely guarantees you're pretty much going somewhere else by the deadline.
I came up with two big bats. My first pick, Yasiel Puig. His contract is expiring at the end of the year. I think if the Reds are tanking and they're doing bad in the season, I think you trade him away for some prospects. Also, Paul Goldschmidt, great bat. I don't know how good the Cardinals are going to be this year. They could be one of those teams up and down. But I think if it's another team that if they're doing poorly, I think they could trade Goldschmidt as well.
All right. I like it. And then absolutely the biggest one, who do you think's winning the World Series?
Red Sox are making a repeat season of themselves and winning the World Series yet again. Yes, they lost a few good names in the offseason, but I think they have a strong unit and especially a strong head leading them in Alex Cora to bring them to another World Series title. Overall, the franchise is doing great, and I hate the Yankees, so go Red Sox.
Agreed. Back-to-back this year. Boston didn't lose anyone except Craig Kimbrell, but I think he's going to sign back with the Red Sox. But back-to-back, Boston.
All right, and now MVP. Who do you think is going to be MVP?
See, I have two possibilities for each league. AL, Mike Trout could be a repeat MVP. Definitely a five-tool player who has the makings of doing it. Jose Ramirez for the Cleveland Indians, a slugger, a fielder, perfect at third base. And he's part of my Cleveland Indians. So another favor there. In the NL, Manny Machado, just because he's on a weak team. He has the skill sets to do it. And I'm gonna make a lot of people mad with this one. Jung Ho Kang could be an MVP candidate. He's back for the Pirates. I know I like favoring him, but again, he's got the power, he's got the accuracy, and he can just do everything on the field. So those are my predictions.
NL, also Machado. I don't know if we're copying off of each other or not, but AL, Lindor, fantastic player. I think he's the trademark for the Cleveland Indians. He's winning MVP.
All right, I like it. I like the Johan Gone pick. I like that. But who do you think gets the Cy Young Award?
Jake DeGrom's going to have a repeat season in the NL, and for the AL, Garrett Cole is going to shock the competition and win the AL Cy Young Award and make the Pirates regret getting rid of him.
NL, Aaron Nola, Philly boy, and AL, Chris Sale. Chris Sale.
That's
He's going to
spicy.
be, not only he's going to win in the World Series, but he's also going to be winning Cy Young this year.
Fair enough.
All right. That was a lot of rapid fire questions, but thank you so much for talking MLB with both Jake and Steve. Stay tuned. We're going to be talking the new football league, the Alliance of American Football, next. Stay tuned.
The Communications, Media, and Instructional Technology PhD program gave my life direction. This program was perfect for me with a combination of research and media production. Hands-on courses gave me skills that I now pass on to my students. I use all 3 areas of the program, production, theory, and research, every day in my job as a college professor.
Learn how the CMIT PhD program can change your life. Visit iup.edu/CMIT.
Welcome back to The Big Hit. Rounding out this episode, we're going to talk about the Alliance of American Football, better known as the AAF. Joining me will be Will Barbera, Hunter Mitchell, and Joey Chrisman. Let's get right into it. So you guys already know, about a week after the Super Bowl, this league started and came out. And so just off initial thoughts, what are your new thoughts on the whole league as a whole?
I think the football aspect of it is very interesting. I think it's a lot higher paced games than I thought would happen, and a lot higher quality football than I thought, and I like it. So I think some of the different rule changes are very different and hard to get used to as well, like you have to go for 2-point conversions and things like that, but I think it's a good spin-off of the NFL.
Yeah, I think it's just what the NFL would look like if Roger Goodell wasn't the commissioner. It'd just be fun. You can just lay people out and not care if they get CTE afterwards. Like, that's just what football was built on. I think we need to get back to that. I'm not saying that all NFL players should have CTE. I'm just saying that's what you sign up for.
They know what they sign up for.
Yeah, exactly. And, as obviously is not as good competition as the NFL. I think there's better athletes in the NFL than there are in the AAF. But yeah, I think it's just basically a more fun NFL. And like you said, I think they did do a nice job putting a nice twist on it. So far, I like it so far, for sure.
All right.
I honestly like it a lot, mainly because it's more like a redemption league almost, because you have players who didn't really cut it in the NFL, like Trent Richardson, Christian Hackenberg, who played for Penn State. Trent Richardson did really good at Alabama, but he hasn't played an NFL snap since 2014. He's at Birmingham Iron right now, and he has 6 touchdowns on the season already?
In 3 games,
In 3 games as well. Christian Hackenberg, I don't think he's not doing very well right now.
No, he just got benched for Zach Mettenberger. How does that happen?
He's getting benched for
name is
prime
Christian
talent.
Hackenberg.
Yeah, they brought someone who can get the job done.
Yeah,
for sure.
Obviously.
But pretty much you have people who play really well in college, who didn't really make it in the NFL, but you can go to the AAF and they'd probably do well in that, and maybe get looked at by some NFL teams. They'll hopefully back up at least, or maybe if you can go to the CFL, Canadian Football League, which I think Johnny Manziel just tweeted that he was going to leave the CFL. He was thanking everybody from there, and was going to look toward the Americas, and we could probably see him in the AAF soon as well.
He got released. He
didn't leave.
He might have tried to make it seem like he's just moving on.
I mean, he left. It just wasn't his choice.
His choice.
But it's nice. You're right. It's a bit of a redemption thing because former IUP player Max Redfield, who was just here last year, he was he signed with the Raiders, but he didn't make the final roster. But he's with the Birmingham Iron, and Birmingham Iron themselves are an affiliate of the Pittsburgh Steelers, so I don't know about the other teams, who their affiliates are, but could we see this being like a AAA team in baseball, and maybe in a couple years a lot of teams have their own little team, and they can pick from that rather than having certain practice squads and things of that sort?
I don't see that happening, just because I feel like compared to in the NBA, you have the G League. Obviously, you reference in the MLB, you have the farm systems, single A, double A, triple A. Before you get to the big leagues, one thing that's really cool about the NFL, I think, from a draft perspective, is right after the draft, that whoever you draft is going to get a chance to come in and compete and produce. And I think that's one thing that sets the NFL apart from all the other leagues, because I don't follow hockey as much, but I do think there is a farm system in the NHL as well. Yes. So I think that's one thing that the NFL is kind of sold on. I think it is kind of cool that the Iron are an affiliate of the Steelers, but I just don't see. I don't know. It's just kind of one of those things to me where it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I don't really see them adding that. But if they do, it might be cool. It might be interesting. But I just don't see it at this point.
I think it's going to be hard too with some of the different rules that they aren't the same. And even in baseball, there aren't big drastic rules that are different between the single A, double A, triple A. But with there being no extra points, no kickoffs, things of that nature, like only blitzing. Another big rule is you can only blitz, 5 people, I think?
Yeah.
So rules like that, it makes it less of a farm system and more of its own thing. But I strongly feel that the best way for this league to have success is for it to become almost like a farm system. And that is, like, other teams in the past have tried to come in and do this, the XFL and the USFL, but they always tried to outdo the NFL. And one thing that makes this league different is it's not trying to outdo the NFL, it's trying to be
coexist.
Yeah, it's trying to coexist with the NFL.
It's almost trying to like complement the NFL almost.
Yes.
I feel like,
But I feel that the best way for it to do that would be for it to be a farm system.
Yeah. And going off what you said with coexisting, the reason that this league is kind of popular right now is because it's not competing with the NFL. Like it's during the spring, where the NFL was during like the winter and the fall.
Mm-hmm.
If it was during the time of the NFL, I don't think it would exist at all. But the fact that everybody loves football all the time, and now they have a league that can actually watch football like during the spring, not during the NFL. So they go from like the NFL to the AAF, which is why I believe the AAF is probably gonna get more popular as it goes on with bigger people coming in. Maybe, like you said, the teams may be able to come in more, like if it grows in popularity, but only time will tell with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's for sure. But just moving on with that, similar to the college football playoff, there will just be 4 teams that make it out of the 8 and they'll compete. So I know the Birmingham Iron are 3-0, and then there's 2 teams, I believe it's the Atlanta Legends, and I can't remember the second team, that are 0-3. But
Memphis.
Memphis, the Memphis Express are 0-3. But with that said, anything can happen. Just like the NFL, there's teams like the Colts that just go on a win streak and make the playoffs when they shouldn't. So just going off that, who do you think has the best chance to win the first AAF championship?
For me, I think the 4 teams that are going to make the playoffs for me are the Orlando Apollos. Steve Spurrier has done a great job with that team. They're 3-0 right now, number 1 in the power ranking. The Birmingham Iron, who I think is actually going to win, just because you look at, honestly, like when you watch the AAF games, and Trent Richardson, I know he's really not, like, for the NFL standards, he's not that good of a player. He actually makes it look like he's Derrick Henry, and they're all a bunch of like elementary school students. It's like not even fair the way he's playing right now. The San Diego Fleet, they have a running back named Jaquan Gardner who's going off right now. And then the Arizona Hotshots, who have a former Eagle named Josh Huff, who's tearing it up right now. So I think those 4 teams are going to make the playoffs, but I see the Iron winning it all, just being powered by Trent Richardson at this point.
Yeah, I think that there are 3 teams that right now are very clearly ahead of all the other teams in Arizona, Orlando, and Birmingham. I think there's a little bit of, there's 2 more teams that are probably going to compete for that last spot in the San Diego Fleet and San Antonio as well, who are also playing very good football right now. So I think San Antonio will get over San Diego. They won the first game against San Diego. Did they? Yeah, they did.
Yeah, yes.
So they'll have that tiebreaker, and in a 10-game season, that tiebreaker is very important. So I see them getting in over San Diego, but I agree with you. I think Birmingham has the best team right now, and I think Trent Richardson is an absolute beast in the AAF. And somebody with that NFL experience, and he not only had experience, he had some success with the Browns.
Oh yeah, a little bit. With some minor success.
I mean, he's had some success at every league. He won Heisman. He got drafted in the first round, and then went and ran for 1,000 yards in an NFL season. There's no AAF talent other than him that has that.
Yeah.
So
that's for sure.
Yeah, aside with being a little bit Trent Richardson, but the AF defense, or the Birmingham Iron defense, has over 10 turnovers in just a season already. And like I said, when I was talking about the NFL, defensive wins championships. And I think the Birmingham defense can create those turnovers to win that championship. If I had to choose another team that could possibly run for the championship, it would be the San Diego Fleet. You said Gardner. He's very shifty. He's a small, buff guy, but he's very quick and elusive.
Very explosive, yeah.
He reminds me of a past Maurice Jones-Drew. And if you saw him in his highlights, very small, but also very quick, very hard running, and never stops training those legs.
Yeah, not afraid to lower his shoulder.
Not afraid to lower his shoulder. He can bust through holes like nobody's business. Yeah. He went when he versed who they versed last week.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Well, either way, he had like at least a 50-plus run, and like because I mean the line was good, but the fact that he hit the hole like very explosive and outran everybody, I think those two teams are probably going to make it to the championship.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely Birmingham looks to be the most complete team. But the first game I watched was one of the San Antonio games, and as soon as I watched it, DeMarcus Ayers was going off, and I just said, you know what, all right, this is my team for the season until they get more teams and become more complete. So I'm hoping they win, but I'm definitely thinking Birmingham's going to take it all. But just last final thoughts. We're just going into the 4th week of games, so but based off that initial reception and everything else we've talked about, do you think so far that this could be a successful league?
I hope. I'd love to see football year-round. I've enjoyed watching these games, and I think it will.
I think so far, football is football. People are going to watch football. People love football. Keep it entertaining. Keep it the way it is. Keep bringing in players that are going to attract viewers. Don't change the rule book. That's my favorite part about it so far. The fact that you can lay out a quarterback and not have to get a roughing the passer flag. I think it will be successful.
Yeah, that's what basically is going to bring people in. The fact that they don't throw flags when you knock a quarterback out or a late hit or anything, but the fact that this league is more hard hitting and it doesn't have the high caliber players the NFL does, but the fact that you can watch it when the NFL is not on, you have football all year round, is pretty much the reason why this league is probably going to be successful.
Yeah, for sure. Bridging that gap from off season to the beginning, east to preseason is really going to help, and especially when you see people that you've played in the NFL before, or your favorite college athletes, it can really be nice. So, but all that being said, thank you so much for joining us here on the AAF segment with myself, Jake Spagnol, Will Barbera, Hunter Mitchell, and Joey Chrisman. And thank you for watching The Big Hit, and we'll see you guys next time.